Dear Patriots, please subscribe to our patriotic channel. Like and share this video so your friends can see it. Thank you. Bombshell. Iran releasing names of officials who took bribes on sham nuke deal. Look who was just spotted in Iran. Media outlet headlines have been dominated over discussion regarding the current White House administration decided to pull out of the Iranian nuclear deal from the Obama administration. While Democrats are furious, Republicans and the American public are elated. It is officially over despite former Secretary of State John Kerry's attempts to try and thwart its ending when he met with Iranian diplomats in Paris, France. But Iran is pissed now that Kerry's efforts did not work and they are looking for blood. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman threatened, 100% fed up reported. Our previous report on John Kerry's curious visit with Iranian diplomats in Paris, France, the always arrogant John Kerry is at it again. So John Kerry just left a meeting at l'Avenue in Paris W/3 Iranians. A friend was sitting next to their table and heard JK blasting at real Donald Trump. The Iranians had a 5-person security detail and left in diplomatic vehicles. Is he fair registered? What was John Kerry doing in Paris Saturday at noon with 3 Iranian diplomats, while his president, Donald Trump, had just cancelled the nuclear agreements? Obviously, the former catastrophic diplomat who cannot even stand on a bike does not fear being prosecuted for treason against his country. He is a Democrat, and therefore he is protected. Admittedly, the FBI has indicted Michael Flynn, the national security advisor to President-elect Trump, for identical but less serious reasons. He spoke with Russians during a cocktail party while he was still a simple citizen. Flynn is a Republican, all the force of the law apply. And of course, the media won't say a word about it. Collusion with a foreign power, it only interests them if they can accuse President Trump. Iran has not been taking kindly to the United States' recent actions regarding the Iran deal. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani told media outlets on Sunday that so long as Tehran's interests remain protected that Iran is willing to remain within the 2015 nuclear deal. He and his foreign minister indicated they are interested in having it redesigned without the United States. Lambasting the United States' withdrawal as a violation of morals, Rouhani said that if the remaining 5 countries in the agreement want to stay, so will Iran. The Huffington Post reported. Rouhani made similarly conciliatory comments on Tuesday, and on Saturday his foreign minister, Mohammad Javad Zarif, embarked on a tour of other signatory nations to the accord, state media reported, in a last-ditch effort to save it. After arriving in Beijing on Sunday, Zarif said, "We hope that with this visit to China and other countries we will be able to construct a clear future design for the comprehensive, nuclear, agreement." China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi said he believed Zarif's tour would improve countries' understanding of Iran's position and help Tehran protect its legitimate national interests. Rouhani has said Iran would stay committed to the deal, which Britain, China, France, Germany and Russia also signed, provided those powers could ensure Iran was protected from sanctions against key sectors of its economy such as oil. The 3 European states have also recommitted to the agreement, but senior cleric Ayatollah Ahmad Khatami told worshippers at Tehran University on Friday that Europe was not to be trusted. The head of the elite Revolutionary Guards also warned against relying on foreign powers to guarantee Iran's interests. America's exit aims to break the Iranian people's resistance, which is not new, but today's problem is not U.S. sanctions, it's that some officials look towards outside rather than looking at domestic potentials, Guards Commander General Mohammad Ali Jafari said, the state news agency IRNA reported. On Wednesday, Jafari had cast doubt on European nations' ability to save the nuclear accord. With the deal on shaky ground in the face of fierce opposition from hardliners at home, some analysts say the pragmatic Rouhani faces the prospect of serving out his second term as a lame duck leader. Whatever this nuclear deal means for Iran is irrelevant. The current administration made the decision to come out in order to put America first. The Iran deal did not benefit the United States, only Iran. And Iranian politicians should not be emboldened to fund their nuclear program. Under the deal, sanctions were lifted, United Nations resolutions regarding Iran were annulled, and the European Union were forced to remove energy and banking sanctions. Share if you agree the Trump administration did the right thing. Share if you agree the Iranian deal only helped Iran. Share if you want to know the names of the politicians who are in the pockets of the Iranian government. Dear Patriots, please subscribe to our patriotic channel. Like and share this video so your friends can see it. Thank you.
Obama's cronies show their true anti-American colors with this outrageous move. Just when you think liberals can't get more anti-American, they go and prove you wrong. That's precisely what happened when Obama's former officials just penned an op-ed for the New York Times, calling on European allies of the US to take the side of state sponsor of terrorism, Iran. The bottom line is that progressives would rather see America fail than supporting the positive America First agenda by President Trump. From Conservative Tribune. Even for Democrats, it's disturbing. American liberals might have nothing but contempt for the freedom and strength that make the country great when they're talking in private, but they used to be smart enough to know that they had to at least pretend to be patriotic in public. But as the Trump administration keeps pushing its agenda of putting America first, even that mask is coming off, and what's underneath is ugly. In an op-ed published by the New York Times on Friday, two men who served on the staff of the National Security Council in the Obama White House openly called for traditional American allies in Europe to take the side of the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism over the leader of their own country. According to Stephen Simon and Jonathan Stevens, President Donald Trump's decision to pull the United States out of the Iran nuclear deal is an insult so grievous that European governments should consider pulling their ambassadors out of Washington, and expelling American ambassadors from their own capitals. And do this to show their allegiance to the Islamic Republic of Iran. This is no small thing. According to the Times biography note, Simon is the author of a forthcoming book about U.S. foreign policy in the so-called Arab Spring. He was also the National Security Council's Senior Director for the Middle East and North Africa from 2011 to 2012. Stevenson, meanwhile, was the Director for Political Military Affairs, Middle East and North Africa, at the National Security Council from 2011 to 2013. That would put both men in key roles in the Obama National Security Team while the President and his first Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, were making building a disaster of U.S. policy in Libya that helped flood Europe with millions of migrants today. The disaster also included the deadly terrorist attack on the American diplomatic outpost in Benghazi that Democrats are still lying about. In other words, this isn't some loony commenter at Vox joining up with a half-stoned reader at Salon. This is the thinking of two serious, if demonstrably inept, leftist foreign policy maidens. And it's seriously infuriating. First, the two men acknowledge that the different countries of Europe have different leadership, but propose Europe acts as a whole as an opponent of the Trump decision on the Iran deal, as though the continent is governed by a bunch of faceless bureaucrats in Brussels. And they want Europe to defy the Trump administration's sanctions on Iran by continuing to do business with the murderous mullahs, and make the point with diplomatic strikes of their own against the US. The European Union could, for instance, announce the withdrawal of member states' ambassadors from the United States. Isn't this what states do when diplomatic partners breach solemn agreements, expose them to security risks and threaten to wreak havoc on their economies? That is, after all, what the administration is threatening to do by courting the risk of a Middle Eastern war and applying secondary sanctions to European companies. Depending on the American response, European capitals might even follow up with expulsion of American ambassadors. If that provokes the Trump White House, they wrote, and it certainly would, it will be time to ratchet up the pressure. If the administration's next move were to impose secondary sanctions on Europe, the Europeans, could slap its own penalties on American multinational corporations, which in turn would place additional pressure on the White House. So these two men, high-ranking national security officials in the United States government not all that long ago, are literally pushing American allies to launch a trade war with the United States. They justify the argument by claiming that the Iran nuclear deal is of such crucial importance that Europe's own commercial future is at stake, and Trump's decision is imperiling that. If this doesn't end the European Union's doormat foreign policy, we might as well start referring to it as the 28 colonies ruled from across the ocean, they wrote. This is not an outcome the United States should welcome. As Britain learned in 1939, It's a lot better to have allies than colonies. The historical jab is cute, and one can imagine the average New York Times reader nodding approvingly, secure in the knowledge that their own intellectual superiority has been affirmed by the Grey Ladies writers once again. But the real lesson from World War II isn't what the map of Europe looked like in 1939. It's what the map of the world looked like in 1945. And that was that any country, literally any country, that launches a full-scale war with the United States, trade or otherwise, is in for a rough few years before they give up the ghost. And European countries, friend and foe, should have learned that lesson well. For the leader of any member of a European country to take the advice of Simon and Stevenson would be an astonishing act of political suicide. But it's even more astonishing that two men who were once part of the national security team of a United States president would be so open about rooting for a costly and damaging economic and political confrontation with their own country. Even for Democrats, it's disturbing. What do you think? Scroll down to comment below.